New OGs. The New OGs is a state medicine entertainment production and is brought to you by Sun Life Solar. Sun Life is helping homeowners in Illinois take advantage of a program that gets them solar power at no cost. If you are a single-family homeowner in the state of Illinois, you can lower your electric bill, raise the value of your home, and do something good for the environment without paying a single dollar out of your pocket to do so. In fact, Sun Life...
Bobby, did you say free?
Yeah, free. Nothing out of pocket. Costs them nothing. Reduces their bill. No matter how they do it, it's going to save them money. It's the deal right now. In fact, they can only work with you if they can save you money. So that's a pretty cool deal. Sun Life is a SunPower dealer, an American panel maker with over 30 years of solar experience, and Sun Life even has a referral program that pays out a minimum of $500 per referral. So head over to www.illinoissolar.today and get in contact for a free consultation or to refer someone you know. We are also brought to you by People of Comedy. That is a network that we are on.
Hey.
That is a network that has been out day after day in Chicago during these protests, making sure that you see the real live action that's going on. Multiple hours every day, live streamed to you. You can follow everything. Go to People of Comedy on Facebook. You can see all the great shows offered there. Check in daily. They've got new, fresh podcasts you can watch and listen to wherever you listen to pods. And, of course, check in on their live streams that they have daily. They usually have a man or woman on the street. I will probably be out there one of these next couple of days to participate as well. Shout out to who's been out so far? Jarrell Scott Barnes has been out.
John McCombs.
Who else is out there? John McCombs.
And Dwayne Murphy Jr. And then tonight at 6 p.m. Central, we will be at Union Park with Dwayne Murphy Jr. and Radescu Hopkins.
Oh, that's a good cast. I just did a great show with John McCombs a couple nights ago with Joe Kilgallen on Kilgallen's podcast, and John McCombs had a lot of great shit to say, man. Great dude. Good dude.
He's a vet, right? He's a
former Marine,
military vet, stand-up comic, super funny dude, and also like has a perspective that is encompassed of all that stuff that I think is necessary, especially right now. What's going on, Excel? How you doing, brother?
Can I tell a John McCombs story real quick?
Yeah, tell a John McCombs story real quick. We got nothing.
Funny, I just like saying this. I like big upping him because we had a disagreement. I'm not gonna get into the whole thing; it's too long of a story. But we had a disagreement, and I was 100% ready to dislike that motherfucker. Like I was like, he was going on the list of motherfuckers I didn't fuck with at all. And coincidentally, like a week after we had, it wasn't even a disagreement. It was just a misunderstanding, but I just took it there because I chose to. And we had a show together, and I was headlining the show, and I was just going to tear it down, and whatever he talked about, I was going to rip it up on stage because I figured he was going to be corny. Because I already said I wasn't going to like him, and he fucking crushed.
Right.
And he crushed. And after he crushed, I couldn't dislike him anymore.
Right.
I was like, fuck, he's good. Fuck, I can't. He was funny. The shit was petty anyway. When he turned out to be funny, I was like, you know what? I was being petty. Fuck it.
Yeah. Now you just
we've been buddies since.
He's solid, man. He's also super funny, so that's also a thing to keep in mind. What's been going on with you, man? What's your week in this terrible timeline? How's it been?
I went another week without making cookies, so I'm stoked about that. There was sweets purchased in the house. I'm trying to keep it 100, but I did not bake cookies, and that's a big step. I am definitely much lower on my sugar intake than I usually used to be, than I previously was.
So you have not gone to stress eating, is what you're saying.
I broke down and had some contact with other people today. I got a haircut. And
solid. Look at that. Oh yeah. Now I see. When you get up close, I see you did get it off. You got cleaned up on the sides for sure.
There you go. There you go.
That I can recognize.
And I also got a pedicure. And
don't show us that though.
I'm not. My feet are pretty, baby. I got pretty feet. I take care of my toes.
Please don't. Show us that.
I met one girl that was into feet and it changed my life. But anyway, here's the thing. The woman who did my pedicure, I think she used to work in a different line of massage before she did the pedicure again.
Oh, yeah.
Because I felt like she was jacking off my feet. Like, and she kept asking me if it felt good. And there's a massage. There's a massage. I get like a hot It's a hot stone massage, right on your calves, legs, stuff like that. I get the massage part of it, but I've never once had anybody actually keep asking me, "You like that? Does that feel good? You like that?" And she kept stroking it like she was going, like she wanted me, which was also extra awkward because I was high as fuck.
Yeah, it's not supposed to work that way. It's not supposed to be.
And
she's supposed to silently do it and then be like, "Tell me if I heard," or something like that. And then there's not supposed to be any more words until she does a different thing.
Dude, mad eye contact. Like I said, I was high as fuck, so I had my eyes closed most of the time. But every time I opened my eyes, she was like looking dead at me, like up with my feet and stroking. Like she masturbated my toes, man. It was weird. But it was actually really good. I'm going back. She's got an appointment right set up in 2 weeks.
We paid $250. We paid $250 for that pedicure.
I don't want to talk about it.
$40.
But I will be going back.
I like how we're just not going to address that. That's great. I have not gone out and started beating people in the streets. I think that's about the only thing I can tell you as far as the good thing about my week is that I have managed to for everyone's benefit, I have managed to stay close to home for the last week and not left my house yet. I'm trying to settle all of my anger and energy down before I actually walk out into the progress that is happening right now in the world.
I do want to make clear for anybody watching the show. We did social distancing as much as you can with people touching you. They all had PPE on, and I was made to wear a mask at the pedicure. Obviously, could not wear a mask with getting a haircut, but
of course,
the PPE. Just heads up for anybody going whatever.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of. It sounds weird, but there's a lot of. If you go to the right places anyway, there's a lot of not only cleaning that goes on, especially in like a place that does pedicures and manicures for the most part, but like the stuff that they're using in and of itself is not necessarily conducive for people to live on. Like whatever they got you soaking your feet in, ain't nothing living in that. There's nothing living in that shit. There's nothing. whatever that stuff is they put in there for your feet to soak in, that's killing everything.
It's dead. Yeah, it's dead. It's dead.
If the flu
it's basically well-scented Lysol.
Yeah, it's gonna get everything up out of there. It's gonna handle all that shit. So you're not gonna have to worry about any of that. I want to get into all the stuff we want to talk about, and I want to do an episode that kind of focused on what's really happening right now, because we're both comics. We try and be funny a lot. I mean, in the midst of all the pandemic shit going on, you and I both tried to make as much light of it as possible while still living in the reality that like this is real life. Being a comic is like any other thing where it's like, well, if you're a lawyer, you don't go home and try cases on your kids all night like that. Like there's times you got to turn that shit off. Like that's why occasionally lawyers are funny, right? Because sometimes they're the other thing, and so, but obviously with the murder of George Floyd and the murder of Breonna Taylor and the murder of Ahmaud Arbery and the murder of James Scurlock, and you can go on, and we can go down the list, right? We got, but we could do an hour just reading the names, to be honest with you.
Seriously.
This is how bogus it is. We could do an hour where we just sat here and in a calm demeanor read the name, the age, and how they were killed.
Yeah, the circumstances.
That'd be an hour. And that would cover
Hey, Bobby,
so,
maybe that should be a special episode, man. Maybe we should actually do that.
I mean,
that doesn't sound like a bad plan.
I don't think that's a terrible plan. I think doing something that would involve some people would be a solid thing to do. I think to make it clear as to what.
Oh man, maybe we do a thing like just everybody reads each story. I like that.
Yeah.
This just happened right here. New OGs, don't steal our shit. Or if you do, at least give us credit.
James, write that down. By tomorrow, this will be out. This will be the new Gal Gadot Imagine song. I think that, and I've been accused by this by my 6th grade teacher on Facebook the other day, that like, while I'm definitely obviously upset and angry, my take doesn't give a lot of instruction. Like, it's just, and it's because here's the thing: is like I can't even get enough chance to even figure out the version of angry I am without honestly more white people telling me how angry I'm allowed to be. And that has created an atmosphere in which I can't even get to the point of calming down, because as I'm expressing the level of anger that I had previously been at, that I'm trying to scale back from, so that people can understand how angry one gets in situations like these, I am concurrently being told by white people that it's too angry at that level, which only gets you angry.
By some white people. Some
like
white people.
By some, yeah. There's no. I mean, yes, I'm not white people in totality, but no black people are coming to me telling me I'm too upset.
Candace, what's her name?
You know what I mean? Like
Candace Owens.
She's not. I mean, I don't know Candace. She is not coming to me and telling me I'm too upset. I mean, amongst the black people that I know and have in my friend circle, in my social media friend circle, no one has come to me who is not white and told me I'm too upset. That has not happened. Everybody has come to, you know what I mean? Like, it's been specifically just a specific subset of people that have approached me to tell me that I'm too upset and don't have a take, or a suggestion as to what to do. Or it's people that want to message me with 17 paragraphs of questions that are meant to be asked in a way to try and make them right in a situation.
I've been doing some shit for the last couple of days, trying to make some moves and stuff. So I haven't been posting as much as I wanted to. Yeah. But I took clips from Martin Luther King III. He posted when the rioting first started. He posted something about I think we lost Bobby for a second. There he is.
Lost you. I'm good.
All right, you with us, baby? All right. So anyway. Martin Luther King III posted about the riot being the voice of the unheard, and a bunch of white dudes came on to tell him what his father really would have said, that he was being a disgrace to his father. Like the audacity. They got the same goddamn name, man. Who the fuck are you? That you think that you gonna tell motherfucker the third? It's in his name.
Yeah.
And you gonna tell him about him? Are you kidding me?
I'm a passable biracial person, right? So like, I should expect it. If you're gonna tell Martin Luther King III that he's not angry the right way, then for sure you're gonna tell me I'm not angry the right way, right? Like, that's for sure gonna happen.
Like, I saw that shit just blew my mind to no end.
I'm not telling you I'm surprised. I'm telling you that, like, it still doesn't keep me from getting angry at the fact that someone thinks they're gonna tell me how angry I should be allowed to be. Like, we're still back at square one, which is I'm a goddamn human being. You're trying to determine for me what makes you the most comfortable. But the point of all that is that in that I have not, I mean, so the reality is like a lot of the stuff that I personally post, if you are paying attention to the stuff that I'm saying, it should lead you to either go look up whether I'm full of shit, which is amazingly, a lot of people will come back to tell me I was wrong on a lot of shit, by the way. So I don't know. But you're free to go look it up, and that would ideally lead you to find the sources that I put up. And if you want instruction, generally it is, if I tell you Boots Riley has got a dope thread, you need to follow that, then what I'm saying is you should be paying attention to what Boots Riley is talking about. Like, that is me giving you something to do, right? If I tell
that was a very dope thread that you posted, by the way.
If I say you should read this book called How to Be an Anti-Racist, like, you know what I mean? Like, that is my suggestion. But it's hard to find one singular place with people that I think should be or like, you know, have a type of a place to be able to say, like, here are the things, here's what's going on. So before this episode is over, we're going to get into doing some of that. Before we do, I want to talk about, and we're going to talk about, like, where we are now with the protests. We're going to talk about the police and some of the issues we have with that and how that system needs to change and how you can play a part in that, what you can get involved in. And we want to talk about how to play your part right now and how not to. Some of the ways you can donate your time and efforts. If you know, not everybody can go out to a protest. People are immunocompromised.
Not everybody should go out to a protest.
Not everybody should go out to a protest. In fact, a lot of y'all motherfuckers need to go back home. Namely the police. If you could go home first, that would probably chill this out a lot faster. It's so ridiculous, man. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, the rest of the shit that's out there. There's been some other crazy news stories along with that, too. The first thing up, though, is that Trump was out talking today about the latest unemployment numbers. That happened. He was super excited, but this is, it's so funny because, like, as recently as, like, 15 years ago, he could have sold this. He could have come out after like a pandemic hit and sold the idea of us gaining jobs. But it's 2020, and now when someone says, "Well, we got a 13.3% unemployment rate that's up 2.5 million," people automatically go, "Well, what does this mean for non-white people? What does this mean versus what we've lost?" Right? Like we lost 20 million jobs the month before, and he added 2.5 million this month. That is not real growth. That is.
Also, I thought you were going a different direction. I'm glad that you went that direction. It's definitely about people of color. I was thinking, actually, the direction I was thinking of, I just don't always believe the numbers coming from him. And true. I hate saying that because they used to say that shit about Obama and all the numbers came from the same place. All the numbers come from the same place. The difference is he has shown multiple times that he has no problem fucking with established Washington things that you don't do. Like the presidency shouldn't be telling them, "Hey, juice up the numbers. The America needs that to feel good."
Sending the military into the streets.
Sending the military in the streets. Because this is a conspiracy. I'm completely making this up. I'm not reporting. I don't have anything to back this up. I'm just saying I would not be surprised if we discovered that he talked somebody into cooking the numbers because he hired some schmuck that was unqualified and they put out good job numbers because he fully believes that good news like makes things better. And if he gets good news, then he looks like he's a genius because it's kind of like every economist everywhere is surprised by these numbers. So that makes it very suspicious to me.
The reality is like when you really dig into it, it's not even still good numbers, right? Like it's a 2.5 million jump in jobs, but that's largely because of the reopening of things. It's not because new jobs were created. Like this isn't new job creation. What is that noise? What's going on back there?
Sorry about that.
This is not new job. What's crackling? You got something popping? You making popcorn?
Yeah, we good now. Sorry about that. I was trying to get rid of a label that I should have done pre-show. Sorry.
This is not new job creation, right? Like this is just the jobs that have been put on hold reopened again. That's not new job creation. If you get to go back to the work that you had before, you don't have a new job. You just have your old job again.
So while I 100% agree with you, you are not in any way wrong. He's going to paint it because the Dow is up, I think, at almost 27. It might be at 27 today, 27,000. And so it's getting pretty close back to where it was before. Between that and good job numbers, he just pumps the positive. And unfortunately, he has a network that is willing to co-sign that shit, even though, and it's his ability to wiggle out of shit is fucking amazing because
he's
just
nuance
yesterday,
free. Like if he stays out of nuance, he's okay.
Yeah, but just yesterday we had generals condemning this motherfucker. Like two former chairmen of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's basically like this nigga's a bum, and so like it's all bad news. Lisa Murkowski made a somewhat ambiguous statement, like she always does.
That's what I'm saying though. Like 15 years ago, he could have sold this. Like we'd be on the new episode, right? The new episode would be the job number shit. Wow, he's got jobs coming, maybe. And then so you're not, but like, as fast as the news cycle does go now in modern times, it also doesn't go away, right? Like there are people who are not letting go of what just happened yesterday with Mattis. There are people who are not letting go of what's happened with Esper. There are people who are not letting go of what's currently, I mean, the setup for our show here, People of Comedy, the guy running People of Comedy was just out at a Breonna Taylor protest. So, like, that stuff's not going away. And the reality is that most of these news channels that are talking about these job numbers are also breaking down the fact that, like, this still, unemployment for blacks in this country is still at almost 17%. Asians is almost 16%. Oh yeah, Black and Hispanic unemployment's like right around 17% total. Asian Americans 16%, and whites is still at 12%. So it's still like when you talk about systemic racism. I mean, that's an example. The other issue I had was that he used George Floyd to kind of tout the good unemployment numbers, which if you watch his speech, he talks about George Floyd looking down and like being excited that the stock market is doing well, which is gross at the very minimum. Is that not gross? I mean, help me.
I'm sorry. I had to change that damn thing. It was fucking my ear. I thought it was going to dance around a little bit before it did that. I didn't know it was going to go straight to the ear fucking. And it was distracting.
Yeah, light a candle.
So, yeah, man. Everything this dude does, he does it like the joke is old. It's hacked, but he does it like a person, like an alien wearing a person's suit, like somebody who just came into contact with humans and like learned how to speak the language and shit, but does not understand at all how to be one. He held up the Bible upside down in front of a fucking church, like one of the oldest and most, well-respected holy sites in America, like for a photo op, man. And like,
man,
it didn't even have the forethought to like maybe say something poignant while he was there about why he thought it was important for him to come there or something like that. He just walked over and fucking took a picture with the Bible upside down like a moron.
So like these are the things that people have to really pay attention to, because these are the actions that have been used historically. And we're going to talk about some more of that, but like when you are really paying attention to history, and a lot of people don't like history, they know a few things, but a lot of people aren't, like, they think some of it's neat, but like what makes history important is picking up on patterns societally that you can see being emulated over and over again that lead to the changes that happen in society based off of how they're being run. And when you see somebody who, because of his actions and the way that he's worded things and given a pass, and very fine people on both sides, and supporting one version of liberation and not another, not coming out supporting the what's really going on with the situation, and essentially being a core source of the reason why the protests are expanding and spreading at the size they are, to go out and do something like use George Floyd's name to cite, or to try and like to use it as a pawn in your game of economic recovery towards your presidency re-election, is like classic shit, man. Especially when days before that, like you said, while he's on stage talking about being like like someone who's respectful of the peaceful protesters, that's when the gassing was happening. It wasn't like he gave that speech, then they gassed him, then he came through. It was while he was saying that, dude. Like the timing of the two. Caitlin Collins, who's with CNN, which I know
some Godfather shit.
I know,
man.
Everybody hates CNN, but Caitlin Collins, who's with CNN, like gave a recounting of this, that like it was before he'd even gotten that shit out, they had already begun tear gassing people in D.C. And he tear gassed his own citizens in Washington, D.C. There's plenty of film of it. This is a for real thing that the president of our country is doing to its own people so that he can walk across on video and get a picture taken. That's literally all that was going on, so he can look strong in the midst of all this bullshit. For who? Who's he looking strong for is the question, right?
So when people talk about how toxic Trump is, I want you to understand, everybody knows that he can probably get voted out in November, and let's say he leaves office and he's gone.
Right.
The toxicity stays. And
right.
The example that I'm going to give is just yesterday, I heard Governor Cuomo, who has otherwise been a hero for most of this pandemic, sound exactly like Trump. Almost verbatim. Yeah. When cops in New York PD were being incredibly violent, beating people who weren't even protesters. It was one guy was just riding his bike home. He was trying to leave. He wasn't doing anything, and beat him down. And when Cuomo was asked about it, his response was like a more articulate Trump response. He called it partisan. He said it wasn't factual, that it was a lie. And it happened on live TV. Like, everybody saw it. Like, it wasn't like we didn't get one side of the story. You could see the guy come into the screen and then get attacked, and he's trying to get away.
So I think it's really important that, like, so if you're watching this or you listen to this, I think it's really important to understand, like, what is actually happening right now. And what is going on is that this is a society, this United States thing that is happening is a structure that has been created. And the people that work as mayors and aldermen and governors and senators and representatives, they are all working to try and maintain a system of whether it's a big government or a small government, it's still within the confines of a capitalist style system, which is, if that's what your belief is, that's what your belief is. But the requirements to maintain that require some type of way to enforce that system on people who would try to disrupt it in any way. But the contract that you make in that whole idea of creating a force that's going to protect the system and its citizens is broken when those protectors start murdering those citizens. And this difficulty that people have grasping is the response that's coming. But the response that's coming is because the agreement is broken. We don't have that agreement that we thought we had made as a people and its governing ruling body is broken. And so whether it's a cop kneeling with protesters, whether it's a mayor saying that he's abhorred by the violence that happens to somebody by a cop, the end result of all those conversations still goes back to, but we've got to maintain the system. But they're still not willing to abide by the rules that we're talking about. And so the reaction that's happening is because we are trying to tell you that the system that you're claiming that we're supposed to be sticking to is one you don't stick to. And so why are any of us sticking to it?
I said something and I got called brainwashed by a white person who thought I was overreacting. And I realized...
They definitely all think we are. They think we're all
I realized I can't think of a good reason I could have to ever call the cops. Like, there's nothing that I could imagine happening in my life that my first response would be, I have to call the police. Like, if somebody was stealing my car, I wouldn't call the police. I'd call my insurance agency. Like, I'd have to call the police, but I'd definitely call my insurance agency first.
Yeah. You have to turn so for me, the function of the police in that mode would only be to get an actual police report so I could file it with my insurance.
For the insurance, yeah.
But like the expectation that they're gonna like go on some Starsky and Hutch shit to locate my fucking car is like, nah, man. When they're out patrolling, if they come across a vehicle that fits the description of mine, they will probably hassle the shit out of somebody and potentially murder that person to reacquire a vehicle that is just a thing, right? Like,
also, yeah. Also, I mean, unless there happened to be coincidentally some like family keepsake that was unique and was going to be lost if I didn't recover that vehicle, I really don't give a shit. Like, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'd be emotionally hurt, but
give me a new one.
I mean, I'd still have to go to my
insurance. That's what I have
insurance
insurance for.
Yeah, I'd still have to go to my insurance. If somebody stole my car, it's not like I would get a civil suit out of them for any money. That's not going to happen. Nobody's stealing my car and also has the money to get sued by me to get.
Yeah, like I can't.
I don't have that kind of car.
Like if somebody broke in my house, the only time I would call the police is if they had to come get this motherfucker.
Well, and that's the thing is like, the job of the police is to maintain protection of these people who are running the system that is essentially killing its citizens. indiscriminately. And so there is a problem in that. And the method of Trump to try and switch everything, calling out Antifa terrorists and saying he's going to add a group that doesn't actually exist to the national terrorism list or whatever. It's just like, it has nothing to do with what the actual problem is. And that's the reluctance to like engage in that is the bigger problem. So he tested the support of the generals because he was talking about bringing the military in. And then within a couple days after that, General Mattis came out and said, my man wasn't worth shit, and there's been a problem that's been evolving over 3 years.
General Mattis lit him up like a fucking Christmas tree, dog. It was nasty. It was not nasty in like Trump's way, but nasty in that he really don't like this motherfucker. Yeah. But he said it in the most eloquent 4-star general way. But yeah,
he said he was angry and appalled by what he's seen over this last week, and he was not talking about protesters and looters and rioters. He was talking about Trump. He was talking about what he'd seen from Trump.
And then Trump tried to say he fired him, and this was, I think, was the bigger hammer. Wasn't just the general talking shit, but Trump saying he fired him, and then Trump's former chief of staff stepped in and said, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He's like, the president's mistaken, or he doesn't remember correctly.
I mean, he literally said that he's the first president he's seen not come in and try and unite people. That literally, I mean, and if you're not trying to unite people, what you're trying to do is obviously divide them, which is, that's a crazy accusation to get made at you by, by a general.
You look like the Mr. Clean cartoon.
And in a situation where the military, you had said this yourself about it. It was kind of like a weather balloon to see if the military was with him or not.
And they seem not to be, and that is a fantastic thing.
They don't seem like they're with him, which is because our main concern is what happens. What happens if he loses? What happens if and when he loses, or when his term is over? Like, will he leave? And the question had always been, well, is the military going to protect him or not? And it seems like that would probably be a no. And then Secretary of Defense Mark Esper ordered a bunch of troops home this week. Troops from the 82nd Airborne. He ordered home from D.C. area. He has spoken out against the president, and of course they're already looking for replacements for him, which is the classic shit, man. Which is the problem. Every time somebody disagrees, he tries to replace him.
Did you see? I can't. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right. McElhaney.
McEnany.
McEnany.
Yeah.
When asked if Esper I don't know if she asked if he was still the defense secretary, or the way they asked the question was basically, does he still have a job? And her response was, he is still currently the defense secretary, which is basically the kiss of death. You know, that's like being a red shirt on Star Trek. You're gonna die. It's game over, baby.
It's by the way, she is somebody who voted using her parents' address in Florida while living in D.C. with a New Jersey license.
Wow. As long as she didn't vote in more than one state,
sure,
I am not going to be judgy about that, because I 100% voted in Illinois when I lived in California. But I own property in Illinois.
You're also not somebody who has a problem with it, right? You're also not actively... You're not also
and I didn't vote in California at all.
You're not also actively talking about how voter ID scams work, and like all those voter ID laws, which should have made that not a thing she should be able to do, would be things that she would be in favor of, right? Like, all the shit that she did is shit that if she had her way, nobody would be able to do.
Yeah, you're right.
Point, right? So like, I think it's okay, because I don't see a problem with it as long as she only votes one time in one place. But as the person who's it's like trying to go after prostitutes, but also getting caught with a prostitute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough.
And the problem is that like, we will follow the example that's set ahead of us. So much so that we still talk about the example of the people that started the country 200 and some odd years ago, right? Like, that's how much good example matters, right? Good example matters so much that we can't stop talking about how great guys were that were slave owners, because they were so great that we were like, listen, even though you guys own black people, you still had dope ideas outside of that on how to run a place, right? Like, that's how dope a good example can be. And so the idea of, like, someone being so flawed and still claiming they can be a good example is a difficult thing. And it's over the course of time. One, the recognition that these guys owned slaves, so maybe they weren't the best example, which has flawed a lot of the conversation after that. But also, like, the degradation of what being a good example even is anymore, to where, like, if it's so foul at the top, what's the point of anybody trying to be decent, right? Like, if you can be shitty and get to the top, why would you need to be decent?
You know, when every time somebody talks to me about the founding fathers, I think we should take a moment to give a shout out to Sally Hemings, because I'm pretty sure she fucked us into freedom. Like, I say that as a joke, but I mean it sincerely. If you look at Thomas Jefferson's writing, even though he owned slaves, he worded shit in a way that and I believe there is writing of his that said that he knew slavery would end. It wouldn't end in his time, but he knew it would end in America.
He's like, I ain't gonna do it, but somebody's gonna help you.
Yeah. She made him. They had children, and when he died, their kids were free, and that's why there's so many brothers named Jefferson. But I believe some of those words that, especially his later writings, that aren't actually part of the Constitution but are used to interpret the Constitution. There's a lot of talk about the value of freedom and being a man and stuff like that. And those were the same words that were used later on in Supreme Court cases that helped get rid of the things that were still harassing us after slavery. Yeah, and some of the things we still got to get rid of, but, you know.
It's a mess, yeah. And you know, so we're in this situation now where protests are still going on. People are still out right now. Like I mentioned, James, people commenting just out of Breonna Taylor protest. I've heard they've gotten a little bit more peaceful in the last day or two since the George Floyd memorial that went on. The outside agitator shit is still being talked about. They're still bumping this bullshit. This is a 150-year-old myth, I think, it comes up every time. I you know, in a spout of like not paying attention right off the bat, I had said something about it, I think, on social media, and I went back and retracted that the minute I started looking and paying more attention to it. But this idea that it's just Antifa and white nationalists and everybody but the people in the community who are mad is mostly bullshit.
I think it's all of the above. I think
so.
I think.
Don't get me wrong.
Okay, here's out. I think the protest, if there was no outside agitators at all, I think the protest may have stayed more on the side of peace. However, once there's I can't think, I should have looked this up before the episode, but there are like studies about like group thinking, mob thinking, crowd theory. Like once you start breaking glass and shit like that, once that starts happening, it basically almost spreads through the crowd like an infection. That anybody in that crowd that's like inclined to do it, like the movie Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee's movie Do the Right Thing. Like the whole point of it is like Mookie was like the last person to fucking throw trash can through the Sal's window. He was fighting trying to save the motherfucking place, but then he broke because all the other shit that was going on around him. He just said fuck it. You know what I'm saying? And so I do believe you're right that it is the people in the community that are sick of this shit.
So the thing is,
but I do believe that there was a catalyst that was some outside agitators.
So like the issue is like to put it on outside agitators, especially with white nationalists or Antifa, takes away the agency of the anger of black people in this moment. And to feel like black people are or would be happy with where their life is, were it not for somebody else coming in and getting us all riled up.
Oh, I don't think anybody was happy with it.
But that's the way this is sold over and over again, right? Like these white nationalists.
No, that's clearly bullshit. I'm not here for that at all.
That's what the pitch is, though, and that's the idea. And there are definitely there's definitely video of white people breaking glass. There's definitely video of cops breaking glass. Like
plenty of that. There's a lot of that shit.
I'm telling you, people. Go on, if you don't have a Twitter account, you don't need one. You can go on there without having a Twitter account. You can search shit like cops break glass, cops break in,
I'm gonna post it on the
You can see all that shit, okay?
I'm going to start posting stuff on the New OG page. My son showed me something this morning. It was a police report of a Rolex store that got hit, and they said they stole 2.4 million watches, and Rolex was like, nobody stole $2.4 million worth of watches. There were no watches in the store. We had already emptied the store out. Like, they just put out that lie to promote this thing that people did something.
So the reality is, so here's the thing. So the reality is, like, yes, in whatever city you got going on, there's probably 20 or 30 white nationalists who showed up, and there's probably some guys who are for whatever reason are out there to fuck shit up, right? There's probably a small amount of outside agitators, and they're easy to catch on camera. Man. Of course it is, but they're easy to catch on camera because they're small in number and they're all for real white, right? Like they're like white, no mask, big guns. Those are your guys. Easy to spot every time. But to like allow, again, we got to remember, man, the mayor and the governor are trying to maintain the system, and if the mayor lets it get out that the people that live in his neighborhood are upset enough to burn shit down, then it looks like he's doing a bad job. But if he can blame it on somebody else coming to town and burning shit down, well, it ain't my people. My people are happy. I mean, they're upset about what's happened, but overall, they're not upset enough to burn shit down. And that is not reality. That is not reality.
Man, Bobby, fucking points, man.
That is just not what's happening.
Points.
We are mad enough to burn shit down. Okay?
Very accurate. I agree wholeheartedly.
Like, let us take the blame or accept the reality of what's happening here. This is how mad some of us are.
And by the way,
mad enough to burn shit down.
I started a donation on my page, Xavier Lamont on Facebook. Started a donation button on my page for NAACP Relief Fund to help people who get arrested. Also, feel free to donate to any of those causes that, not just that one. If you, there's a lot of good ones out there doing stuff. I think everybody, comics that have a lot of, that are watching the show, if you have a large audience that's always clicking likes and shit on your jokes and stuff, they have it real easy on Facebook. You attach one of them to a really funny joke. It starts getting a bunch of likes. People see that button. Before I even knew it, it was a few $100s raised for the NAACP Relief Fund. I haven't looked at it all day, but that's something anybody can do because I'm nobody, and they started donating money right out the gate. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, make sure. I mean, that's a definite strong move. And we want to highlight some of those other comics. There's a few comics we're going to talk about and some of the ideas they've had that have been working as well. Jumping back on this police shit, they are. That's all right. The cities are also on some bullshit with what they're doing. Again, trying to keep that system going. Yesterday at like 2 in the afternoon up in Milwaukee, they shut down the public transit system. In Chicago, night after night, they've been shutting down the CTA and the public transit system, raising the bridges downtown. Which, if you don't know how Chicago works, if you're caught on one of those sides of the bridges, it's so hard to get out of there before that curfew ends that they've been having go off 15 minutes before curfew, sometimes 15 minutes after curfew, which is, you have to understand what's happening here. They are trying to show that they are doing something to all these rich-ass people that are not in favor of what's happening right now. And the only way they can do that is by showing a high arrest count to show that they are charging somebody dollars. And the only way they can do that is to set up situations in which people are going to get arrested en masse. And the only way they can do that is by cutting off public transportation and raising the bridges and making it hard to get away from the places where people are protesting at, so they can shut them down. And then essentially get into fights with them when the people are not able to be happy about being cordoned off into a corner, and then have tear gas fired at them. And it's not just people. It's not just people of color. There's this video out now. This cat in Buffalo, this 75-year-old man, who literally was trying to hand a helmet back to an emergency response team. These fucking jackbooted looking thug ass cats who work for the Buffalo Police Department, which is now a town I never want to go to. But they push this old man. I mean, the video's everywhere now. It's been all over the news. But they push this old man down. Like, that's somebody's pop-pop, man. Somebody's pop-pop trying to hand the mean man back his helmet. What's crazy is I'm in some of these neighborhood groups in Illinois. They're just outside Chicago, and they're very, like, these cop neighborhood groups. And, like, it's people that look like these guys. It's a guy that looks like these guys who got pushed down. And they're still hardcore for the police, man. There's a 22-year-old. Go ahead.
It's just we're so brainwashed, man. I always talk about this, and I try to bring it up as much as possible. We as a society have been brainwashed. I challenge anybody out there listening to write in if you can find any representation anywhere in media of a police officer that's a character in any cartoon, movie, comic, drama, whatever, that cop or some cop in that movie doesn't do police violence, that doesn't do abuse. They always do. Even in cartoons, man, like, we have been preconditioned that doing police abusing, beating up, roughing up suspects is just how the job gets done. It's part of the thing.
There's a few cops who at some point you got it, like, good cop, bad cop. What the fuck is that?
Good cop, bad cop. That's, the old trope,
Every
and
show
you joke
good
about
cop,
it, but
bad
even
cop.
in comedies, man, they fuck up the suspect, and then he tells them whatever they want to know, and then they save the day. So we get brainwashed into believing, well, they roughed him up, but that's what they got to do with guys like that.
Right. That's how they get the answers out of that scumbag. Right?
Yeah.
And that's, that's the problem that we have is that, this country is very much predicated on this superhero, like, aesthetic, right? Like, this good guy we've told this story of the hero cop who breaks the rules and still gets his man, and the demeaning of, like, what causes someone to be a criminal in the first place, which also actually, by the way, comes from capitalism, right? Like, the fact that crime happens like it does is also the fault of the system that is being upheld by the very people arresting you for breaking it, right?
Yeah, man, hey, I know Boots Riley had a dope-ass thing about this, but I believe you have heard me say this for at least a year or two. Capitalism doesn't work without oppression. You gotta you gotta be stepping on somebody for this whole motherfucker to keep going the way it works. And the thing I wanted to say, a really good friend of mine who, when we grew up, he was liberal and I was conservative, and we used to have fights on the other side where I was defending conservatism, and he was, being a bleeding heart liberal, and we reversed position. He's an executive up in Milwaukee. He's watching the show. Well, shout out, buddy. And he's been giving the argument from the conservative position. But the funny thing is, the reason why I'm bringing him up is because he was listening to our show. And he was saying something about how you were saying burn everything down. Bobby predicted this shit, and I said we had a conversation a while ago about how if rich people don't start chipping in, motherfuckers are going to just start turning ship flipping ship over. They're not going to have any choice. They're just going to start trying to burn shit down. I was like, we know how this story ends, man. It happens. It's happening civilization after civilization. Why not try to just cut the shit off for a change? Why not try to do it a different way instead of just watching it happen the exact same way it has happened throughout history repeatedly?
I mean, to paraphrase Boots Riley's thread, it's the point that the way capitalism works, if you're unfamiliar and you're listening to this for the first time, the way capitalism works is that there has to be unemployment. because if there isn't unemployment, then there is no threat to the employed people about ever losing a job, because they're not ever really in competition, because if everybody's got jobs, then it's hard to keep wages low. Because you can keep wages low if there's a threat that I can replace you with somebody who'd love to take this wage over no wage at all. And so people aren't just going to starve. Those people who are unemployed are not just going to starve. And so if they can't get enough money through social help that's out there, they're going to find other ways to be able to make that money, which is where crime comes from in the first place. People are not just going to starve. That's where a black market comes from. But you can't enforce the protection of that capitalist society you want to have without the police kind of chasing down this element they've created. And so when I tell people the problem is the system, what I mean is that system right there is the problem. And there are times when it loses a piece, but unless you're willing to restructure how that system works, you're gonna end up right in the same place. If you're just gonna put body cams on people, that ain't gonna do it. If you're just gonna try and make the policing more local, that's not gonna do it. You gotta make bigger structural changes as to how you're trying to do things. And that's the only way you're gonna get anywhere with what's going on, is to really change what's happening. Because the way it works right now, it's so hard for police to get in trouble. It's so hard.
So check this out. There was a census that just happened. If you haven't done your census, do your fucking census.
Do your census. It's the only way
do the fucking census, man. Here's why. A big push that can help resolve some of this shit, to go back to the capitalism and the police state shit, would be reparations. And I just figured out $100,000 does not make up for everything. But if you gave every black person, every black man, woman, and child, and I said the census just happened, so if you didn't identify as black on the census, you didn't get it, motherfucker. Right. And then, so any person of black or African descent, whatever, will obviously a mixed race would qualify too. But that's still, that number is still only approximately about 35 million people. And of that 35 million people, if you eliminate anybody who had a 7-figure income, you eliminate ball players and shit like that, or business titans and whatever. And whoever has 7-figure income, you take them off the board. It would be less than $3 trillion, which we just saw them pass legislation that they could do. $3 trillion. Every black person gets $100,000. Shut the fuck up about slavery.
Yeah, I'll be quiet. I would cool out.
Shut the fuck up about slavery. We're here. This is the best we can do. Take this shit. Do whatever the fuck you want to with it. That type of buying power is, again, it's not going to change everything. But if you gave a large community that access, and it doesn't even have to be $100,000 cash. It could be $100,000 that you could use in multiple ways. Maybe $25,000 is free college. Maybe $25,000 is free you go buy property, you get $25,000 cash automatically from the government. $25,000
vocational training.
or invest in $25,000. You get $25,000 of Microsoft stock. You pick a Fortune 500 American company, and you can get, the government buys you $25,000 worth of stock to start you off.
Something.
Goddamn, this is a brilliant plan. I'm thinking of that on top of my head.
I don't know if you want to buy $25,000 of a single stock, but sure, there's definitely ways.
Or mutual fund. Fuck mutual funds, with some type of fund.
Maybe access to a money manager who helps a bunch of white people make a lot of money, who then has to help you make some money pro bono, right?
I'm worried about this motherfucker robbing us, man. I'm saying there's guys like John Rogers, Ariel Capital Management, financial genius, does a lot of stuff in Chicago. Guys like him could create funds, basically quote unquote Black American, African American fund, that people could get a $25,000 share, where they could have control of how it does, but it would be something that they could invest until they reach retirement age. They take it out to help supplement Social Security and stuff like that. This is a pretty solid fucking plan off the top of my head, y'all. Weed is amazing.
I want to talk about some of the changes that need to happen with our policing, though, that goes on. Right now, the difficulties that happen in the police department and why they don't end up getting in trouble, one is the police kind of police themselves. So like
kinda. You're generous with kinda.
I'm generous with kinda. They police. Well, it's one of a number of different things, right? They police themselves. So like internal affairs is still run by the superintendent of police. Like that is still the same. It's all under the same house, right? So there's that they're dealing with. They have civil service protection, which means that they're a public employee, so they can appeal to an independent body when it comes to like suspensions or even being fired. And so like even in Minneapolis, I think almost 50% of the police who have been fired have been reinstated because.
Hey, can I jump in one quick thing? You mentioned internal affairs earlier.
Yeah.
If you go back to my thing earlier about there's always police abuse. You know, always is a thread in all movies, every type of entertainment we get about cops. They all hate internal affairs, which is if you're a good cop, internal affairs you should love internal affairs. Like I'm not saying, you should be a narc. You're a fucking cop. You are a narc. That's your gig.
Yeah.
Like you signed up for this shit. Nobody forced you to do it. So
yeah, nobody made you do that. Nobody made you do that. Why am I just getting low battery? Give me 1 second. I'm getting a low battery signal.
But,
Give me just a second.
I'll rant.
Rant for a second.
Yeah. No, it's a serious thing. I can do this now because I'm not talking over his thing. You chose to be a cop.
There we go.
So if you are supposed to be upholding the law, you should be upholding the law within ranks. 100% for sure.
Absolutely.
Like, and you in ranks and you not holding up, like, then what the fuck are you doing? How are you not going to uphold the law inside the police station, but try to uphold the law outside of it?
So
That's
this is the crazy.
That's bullshit out the gate.
So this is the crazy thing that happens is a lot of their stuff is based off of prior examples. So like when one of them is getting fired, they use a prior example. So like if somebody in the past got away with putting a knee on somebody's neck for 7 minutes, then you can get away with putting a knee on somebody's neck for 7 minutes. Like that's what they use to try and keep their job. That's how they get those cops. If they hadn't gotten charged criminally, they could have ended up getting reinstated. And if they beat their case, they could still end up reinstated when it's all over. Simply because previous stuff, and it makes it hard for any reformer to go in and do something because when you come in and they say, well, this is the history here, so these are the examples of people doing this shit, not getting in trouble for it. They come back and use that. The other thing is civilian review. So like non-police can review some of these complaints that happen, but the results are non-binding. So even if they review them, it doesn't mean that anything ever has to happen to them. So it's like, it's just like it's like a nice thing, but it doesn't mean anything. And then obviously one of the most important thing is police unions. Police unions are wildly right-wing, and while I'm a fan of unions, they're generally led by like old school Law and Order guys, people who are very anti-reform. They have a very specific view over what policing is, and they often end up controlling the budgets of most city departments. If you look at a lot of municipalities and their police budget, it is generally the biggest thing always on their budget.
I did not realize how much the police budgets were, which is weird for the type of stuff that I like. But when I heard that LA took $150 million out of the police budget, that was just like a small chunk of the police budget that they were able to move. I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's not the entire police budget?
Oh yeah, I think it's like billions
$6 billion,
of dollars. $6 billion in a police budget. And then the last thing is it's very hard to hold police criminally accountable. So like filing a civil case against a police officer is not something you can currently do.
Because what's it called? What's the term?
It's
something immunity.
Yeah, there's punitive immunity.
No, not punitive. That's not the right word.
Yeah.
Nah, it's I'll think of it later.
Oh no, it's something impunity. It's something impunity. I forget what it's called. But basically, what it says is you can't civilly sue a police officer for murder, which is the current situation that they're talking about.
It's not implied.
So, like,
is it implied immunity?
Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. Either way, the point is the point, right?
Yeah.
that you can't sue a cop for something that they've done. And here's why this is a problem, because the police force in America is based off of a slave catcher origin. So the way the police work in this country is originally based off of slave catching. Police start off as slave patrols. That's what they were out there doing. And they had unfettered power to do whatever they wanted to do. They could have that in their community, obviously because of the slave code that was going on. So that allowed them to go into homes without permission, allowed them to take people out of there. And then when Jim Crow happened, those guys became police officers, and that became coercive techniques that they used then to try and get answers out of suspects. It became all that crazy shit that even in the most recent years, Homan Square in Chicago had a torture house where the cops had a spot there, they would take people. So like, it's not any different. And then after the Civil Rights Act happened, that's when the whole law and order concept happened with the war on drugs and all that. All that stuff is like replacements for the previous thing that was being talked about, which was this, it all goes back to slave patrols. And so when you talk about how the police do their job now, those are all things that are built off of what were originally a slave patrol setup. And that's how the police in this country work. And so those are the things that have to be addressed when you're dealing with that stuff. And if you go to something like 8can'twait.org, which is a site that you should go to, it talks about 8 of the actions. Yeah, 8 changes that need to happen in the police force. 1, banning chokeholds and strangleholds, requiring de-escalation, requiring warnings before shooting, requiring exhausting all alternatives before shooting, the duty to intervene, ban shooting at moving vehicles, requiring the use of force continuum, requiring comprehensive reporting. They're all steps that they're trying to push to change the way that policing works in this country. And those are things that just have to happen if there's going to be any change at all that's going to happen here. There's just no
like the chokehold thing, all of that stuff to me is no-brainer, but the chokehold thing, for real, that's a no-brainer. Like, why would you even take the risk? The de-escalation, I had a bit of this conversation on Joe's podcast. I'm not going to do the whole thing over again, not because this is the same thing, but it's just a long story. I just want to keep it tight. But I had a conversation once with a cop about just saying how they're asked to do too much. And I wasn't trying to challenge him. I was just saying it's impossible for you guys to be able to handle domestic disputes, and so also maybe deal with gangbangers, and also maybe deal with, other shit that just happens in the course of the day that you have to deal with. Like, There should be more segmentation. Like, there should be more, less people walking around with guns and the whole attitude of freeze, do what I say, because a lot of that shit is just out of place. Like, there's no reason for traffic stop unless I've done something. Unless I've done something like to really indicate that that I might be trouble. If I'm just sitting there like a normal person talking to you, why the fuck do you have your gun out? Or
why do you have a gun with you? Why do you have a gun? Why do you even have a gun with you? If it's just a traffic stop, like, the thing is like, traffic stops, regardless of whatever anybody has in their car, traffic stops would be 1,000% less dangerous if you knew that the cop was coming up to your car without a gun.
Because even the guys who are cop killers, the reason why they're cop killers is because the cop has a gun.
Right.
If the cop didn't have a gun, there's no reason to kill the cop. You can just drive the fuck away.
Right.
And to the people say, well, you let the bad guy get away. Nah, man. That's what we got. We have fucking, you all seen. Everybody got the ghetto bird. They got the helicopters. They get,
they're gonna go find him. They've never been unable to catch somebody they wanted to get to. You've had only the greatest criminals have been able to get away for very long. Almost everybody else they're trying to get, they get them. They're gonna get you. You're not.
Hey, I used to live in L.A. and ghetto bird hops out everywhere there, right? I lived like a block away from 7-Eleven on Overland. And I was walking to it, and I saw the ghetto bird out, and the light was flashing, and I just saw it, and I just kept walking to 7-Eleven, and they put the light on me, and I was like, oh, shit. And I had on all black, because I just happened to be wearing, like, black sweats and a black T-shirt or something, and I kind of froze, and I, like, stood, and they, like, looked like they were going to go away, And I start walking to 7-Eleven again, and they put the light back on me. And I realized they were like, go back in the house, you moron. We have a helicopter flying over your head. There's a dangerous person around. Like they didn't have to say it. It was just like, how stupid are you, man?
Right.
Go back in the fucking house. So
don't you get it? We're looking for someone.
Yeah, I don't know what would happen, like who the person was, but that was like 2006. Anybody listening? If you remember, it was an Overland and National in that area in 2006.
Right off the 10, right? We're off the 10 in LA? Right off the 10?
Yes, that's right off the 10, Overland and National. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know you're LA.
The Palms. That's where that area is. It's called the Palms.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the area. That's the place where I met our person that we know in Hollywood the same, Craig Robinson.
Oh yeah, Craig Robinson. Yeah. Shout out to Craig Robinson.
In the area, the Boardwalk 11. Boardwalk 11.
Yeah.
Dope karaoke bar.
So you almost got shot out of the sky, or at least warned to go back in the house. They're like, we're not looking for you. We just need you to get the fuck out of here. So when people are talking about abolish the police, I think it's important to be clear that like abolish the police doesn't mean disband the police and never let there be any policing. It doesn't mean like if somebody's beaten a significant other that nobody shows up. Like that's not what anybody's talking about. It's talking about changing the way that police are looked at and dealt with, right? Like changing how, like, for the most part, walking a beat should not require you to have to carry all that weaponry. It's just all that military shit they've got, all the fucking firearms at all times. Like that is not the way it's supposed to work. It's not it's not necessary. It can work that way, but it's not necessary. And so that has to be approached in regards to changing how we do policing in the first place. You know what I mean? Like the interactions would change if you didn't have a gun on your hip. I barely look at police anywhere when I'm out just because that's a man standing there with a gun. I'm not interested in that. I'm not trying to get anywhere close to you and have there be any misunderstanding because you are a quick decision away from me being a dead person.
Yeah.
Just being in your presence.
And to anybody who might suggest that if they didn't have guns, people would try them more often, I would suggest to you, people try them now while they have the gun.
Yeah, like they can try it all the time. The gun is not that much of a deterrent.
It's not the deterrent that you think it is, because the people who are going to try them and they have guns. And that's how a lot of people end up getting shot.
Well, the other shit is like,
there's non-lethal shit that they could use.
Well, they've been running around with these fucking rubber pellets that have been fucking people up pretty good. Like, how is this not the main source of, like, stopping that you use for people? Right? Like, at the most, this should be what you're using is these rubber bullets. These rubber bullets seem to be a fucking problem for people. I'm just going to tell you right now, based off of what I've seen from pictures at the hospital, rubber bullets are a problem.
You dump 4 motherfuckers in somebody real fast, you're going to break a couple ribs, but the mother, he's going to survive, and you just arrested a criminal.
I'd be a lot, or
if you didn't arrest a criminal, you instead of us paying $5 million and having a funeral for somebody who was innocent, you paid $250,000 and apologize. And the guy gets to live.
I'd much rather have there be a bunch of more of my people alive with maybe like an eye that's a little fucked up because they got hit with a rubber pellet than I would a bunch of dead ass people, right? Like I would take you alive and bruised over dead any day. That's an easy decision for me to make. I have no problem making that decision at all. And it would change the conversation about what's going on. And so until they're really ready to have that real conversation, I don't see a reason for that stuff to slow down. When it comes to how people are playing their part, we talked earlier about, you added donations to jokes that are getting a bunch of likes or setting up for people that donate and give likes. There's a lot of different ways for people to take part. There's ways to donate when you don't have money. There's ways to donate if you do. We're going to post some of those on New OGs after this is over, so you'll be able to go there and find some of those resources, but I want to talk about a couple of them. If you just want to support black businesses, there's a site called eatblackowned.com. You can go there, you put in the city that you're in, it will pull up a bunch of black restaurants, black-owned restaurants that you can find. That's a great resource to go to. You can go to a website. It's actually, we go to let me see if I can say this right, linktr.ee/national resources list. That gives you a bunch of different things you can tap into to donate, whether it's, bail funds. The George Floyd resource compilation is on there, so all the places you can donate in regards to George Floyd are on there. The Minnesota Bail Fund and Support List is on there. Trans Funds Resources is on there. By the way, it's Pride Month. Black trans lives matter, black homosexual lives matter, black non-binary lives matter, all black lives matter. Trans Funds Resources are in there. Mental health resources funds are in there. The People's Laundry, which is a Minneapolis St. Paul resources in there. And that is at linktr.ee/national resources list. That will get you that. There's been a couple comics who've done some cool shit. Chris Red, have you seen his donation that he's got out there?
Yes, I tweeted it out. I tweeted it out just last night.
Yeah, Chris Red is a comic who got started in Chicago. He's one of Chicago's favorite sons. He's on Saturday Night Live now. He's got some of the great. I think he won an Emmy for Comeback Barack, which was a song that he did with a couple other cats. He has got a fund going right now. If you find Red Said It on social media, he's got a GoFundMe that's raising money for people that end up getting coronavirus from protesting. So anybody who ends up getting sick, who's out there protesting, he's got a fund. I think they've raised over $250,000 in a couple of days. And that's a place you can put your money if you want to put your money somewhere. Also, there's been a bunch of comics, including Sarah Mari, who is not from Chicago originally. I think she's from Oklahoma originally, but was in Chicago a bunch and now lives in LA, who has been over time like opening up her DMs for anybody to send her a receipt from a certain amount of money donated to Black Lives Matter. And she is sending them back a picture of her tits, which is not a bad resource. I have not seen them, although I've made donations to certain areas. I have not turned in any receipts because I respect my friends in a different way and I don't want to see them naked. But from what I understand from people that know better, you should donate and send her a receipt. You should donate and send her a receipt. Just on the pure hope that she's in a good mood today, you might want to donate.
Hey, it's a beautiful thing, man. If anybody want to see, if anybody will give money to see my titties, I will gladly show my titties.
This is the type of allyship we need.
I will show my titties. I will let you know something. My shits is perky, man. They sit up and shit, boy. So that's the thing.
There's a comic named Lindsay Jennings who's not from Chicago. She's out in New York. She's a member of the Suicide Girls. She's doing a bunch of cool shit. If you're looking for places to put your money, those are the places that you can donate to. If you don't have money, there is a link that we're going to put on the New OG's website that we're going to tweet out that you can go to. It's a YouTube video that all you have to do is just let it run. Just let the video run, let the ads run for it. All the money that they make from views that go on there from the ad sponsorship they've got is all going to Black Lives Matter. It's a very easy video that you can watch and check all that stuff out. Let me tell you how to not support black causes right now. Do not message us privately and ask us why we have liked Donald Trump's fan page. Don't do that shit. Okay, let me tell you right now. Do not do that shit. I've had 2 people message me privately and somebody try and tag me in a post of people who had liked Donald Trump's fan page. That was the thing that happened. I liked Donald Trump's fan page years ago. I did that on purpose. I did it on purpose so I could see all the shit that goes up. I wanted to get all the polls in my feed. I want to see all the posts as they went out so I could be right on top of everything this dumb motherfucker said, and so I could see all the comments.
Yeah, hey guys, I don't know if people understand this or not. You have to sometimes do that shit so you can see what those dumb fucks are saying.
Yeah. People have a weird perception that by liking someone's like a Facebook page, you are showing support or like adding to the numbers they can claim. Like I have so and so many followers on Facebook. Donald Trump, I mean, that's not going to get him more votes right now. right?
Yeah.
Like I don't care if 300 million people in the country followed him on Facebook. That does not mean that they're all voting for him. Like support is, I sent you money, I showed up at your rally, I bought your hat, I went to the polls for you, I tried to convince somebody you had good ideas. Like that is support. Me liking your Facebook page so I can see the bullshit you post, like me liking his page was how I knew that Twitter, when Twitter took down that shit saying when the looting starts, the shooting starts, the fact that I had the scroll in my page, I could tell that Facebook wasn't doing anything to that shit. That shit is still up on his Facebook page today. They never took that shit down.
Because Zuckerberg is a piece of shit.
Yeah. Also, like, trying to go after corporations because their CEO donated some money to Donald Trump, that shit ain't going to do it either. That's not... Of course they donated money to Trump. That's that shit is the least surprising shit to me. Other than Ben & Jerry's, that is not surprising to me.
Wait, they said Ben & Jerry's donated to Trump?
No, Ben & Jerry's isn't. No, I mean, like, I get Ben & Jerry's not donating, but, like, these other companies, like Wendy's donating money, that is not a surprise to me at all. Ben & Jerry's I get. Wendy's is not a surprise to me.
I didn't get to mention this last week. I am so disappointed in Wendy's, though, because they have breakfast now, and it's the best breakfast in the game, baby. It's the best breakfast. It's delicious.
So, like, okay, so the CEO donated some money to whatever, right? Or a franchisee for whatever company donated some money. But what if the majority of the people who work there are Democrats?
Fair enough.
And they all, like, I'm not gonna spend my money at a place that might possibly employ a voting bloc that's actually larger than this one motherfucker who put some money into some shit. Like, that seems like a weird way to try and judge where I'm supposed to do. Because the honest to God truth is, all these companies do some shit I'm not for. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like, unless I'm gonna eat 4 things ever.
The landmine that you have
I don't have a farm, right?
Of trying to avoid motherfuckers that aren't, that are socially irresponsible.
Yeah. Have you ever watched The Good Place? The Good Place explores that, the idea of trying to
always
make the right choice, and this motherfucker was still going to hell because
everybody's going. The system was rigged. Everybody's going to hell.
It's impossible. Everybody's going to hell. It's impossible. I want to talk about our last couple things before we get out of here. A few other things that are going on. Kanye West is back in the news.
Hey man, Yeezy.
Kanye? Yeezy's back.
Yeezy's
back in it, boy. News has come out.
He was hustling.
Kanye West has donated what, $2 million? $2
million so far. He set up a college fund for the 6-year-old. Plus, he paid for a bunch of other shit, and he's donating money to also Black Lives Matters and a bunch of other
he's got money going to Breonna Taylor. I think he's got money going towards Ahmaud Arbery. He's put a whole bunch of money into Chicago businesses. Apparently, he's claiming he only put on the MAGA hat to try and get some criminal justice reform. What are your thoughts, man? Do you think he was playing the game the whole time, or do you think he found an opportunity and exploited it?
So, look, it makes more sense to me that it was totally faking it to get that shit done. That makes more sense because him being down with Donald Trump for anything makes no fucking sense at all. If you listen to any of Kanye's music, he was like so anti all this type of bullshit. So for him to go ride with Trump like that was insane. Was a different level of insane. Everybody blamed it on him not taking medicine, whatever. But him doing it to hustle that nigga's ego because he also has an ego and understands that would probably be the best way to go about doing it. That actually makes kind of sense.
I mean, I want to believe it. You know what I mean? Like the pro-Chicago.
Or he's bailing on the brand.
What's that?
Or he's bailing on the brand.
Right, yeah. The pro-Chicago to me wants to believe he was running game the whole time, right? Like, the pro-Chicago to me is like, yeah, he's that dope. Let's all be Kanye fans again. But like, there's part of me that sees this as him taking advantage of an opportunity, right? Like,
hey man, I ain't never stopped playing his music, man. I ain't buy no new music, but all the shit I already had, man, I bumped that shit regularly. I love that motherfucker's music, man. That shit is, I love that shit.
I do too, man.
That nigga was a monster, and his gospel shit ain't even that bad.
It's not the worst.
And I don't like gospel shit.
And I hate gospel, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, I don't really fuck with gospel.
So the Travis McMichael case is starting to kick off, or the case dealing with the men who shot Ahmaud Arbery and killed him. It came out that after he killed Ahmaud Arbery, he stood over him and said "fucking nigger," which shows obviously some serious intent on their part. I think that affects the situation. Of course, there's people that don't believe in systemic racism that probably think that was the first time he ever said the word.
Yeah, man. Also, I didn't know this until today or maybe yesterday. The guy who sent in the video, who thought the video was going to exonerate him,
yeah,
he hit Arbery with his car.
Yeah.
Did that, and it's on the film. And
Right.
he thought it was going to exonerate him.
Right.
He thought what he did was right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's so weird because I've been in arguments with people this week who are arguing with me about systemic racism. And like, if there wasn't systemic racism, shit like that wouldn't be on the menu, right? Like the overall reaction to that, the defense of that, the way people jumped to try and defend those guys after that happened, the idea of trying to claim that, trying to look for whatever bad things that George Floyd may have done in whatever years prior to the moment when he was getting murdered, like all that stuff is examples of systemic racism. All that stuff is examples of a system that continues to allow it to be okay for that to be how people act towards black people. And until the real problem is as long as this plurality essentially of white America continues to deny that reality, this ain't going nowhere. This is going to be the continued issue, is that as long as you keep trying to act like we are back at square one and that you're just better than us, we're going to keep having this problem. We're going to keep having it. And the real problem is that you've been like genetically engineering linebackers and shit for a long time. And we hit hard than a motherfucker.
It's
the eugenics that have made the black people what they are today is dangerous in a physical confrontation with anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, we are a problem physically for people. We're gonna be
I mean, issue. Look, these motherfuckers already talk about, like, go back to the riot and shit. They was to talk about how this shit was like organized attacks and they was hitting out. I still can't get past the shit like we were talking about before in Santa Monica when they were running out of the fucking foot action. That shit looked like a clown car in reverse. Just clown car with sneakers, like with sneakers and jumpsuits. And by the way, there's people stealing mannequins, and I hope that's just for some anarchy shit. And not for you not fucking a mannequin. Like, those mannequins had jobs.
I'm going to be honest, mannequins...
you just take them to a sex slave. That's disgusting.
Stealing a mannequin is some of the best looting cred you can get because almost all this, like, the products that you would steal from a store, that shit that you can't really even prove you looted, right? Like, if you steal some gym shoes, you could easily... People be like, you bought them shoes. But you got a mannequin, it's like, oh, you obviously took part in the looting that went on.
Yeah.
By the way, I would like to remind people that there is no Antifa. It's just an idea, folks. There's no meetings, there's no dues. It just means anti-fascist, which you should be, because the fascists were the Nazis. So if you're not Antifa,
because if you're anti-fascist, that means you're pro, and if you're pro, you're a Nazi.
It's not like anti-fascist, pro-fascist, and just like the middle. There's not a middle. That's the whole point, is to keep it from being a middle, right? One of the last things I want to talk about, By the way, speaking of a fucking clown car, Carol Baskin, that bitch. She's
Carol
walking
Baskin.
away. Dude, she got Tiger King Zoo, man. She got Joe Maldonado's zoo after all this. By the way, none of them should have zoos. None of them should have zoos. All those animals need to be taken away.
Bitch, Carol Baskin.
She got what she wanted out of that deal, which is very weird.
Hey, yeah. Wait, I just realized something. I'm going to take back what I just said. I was just doing my impersonation of the guy, Tiger King.
You're not personally calling her
Baskin, Carol, you are clearly a cold motherfucker in this killing people game. I don't want no beef. I don't want to do a show when this shit opens back up. I do a show in Florida, and all of a sudden it's an alligator in my bedroom when I get back to the hotel. I don't want no beef. I don't want to wake up in sardine oil. Smell like sardine oil.
Next week we'll come on the episode and it'll be James, me, and Carol Baskin. She would have taken your spot on the show.
I don't want no beef, Carol.
The show will be the new Carol Baskins.
I respect your murder game.
The new Carol Baskins. In a little bit of sad news, along with everything else that's sad, Wes Unseld, who was not only a head coach but played for the Washington Bullets, he passed away. He was NBA Rookie of the Year. He was an MVP in 1969.
That same year.
Years old. Yeah. Same year. Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year. That is not a feat.
Only two people did that.
That's right.
Will Chamberlain and Wes Unseld.
Those are the only two. Passed away.
That's some
By the way, the NBA's coming back. The NBA's got a plan in place. They voted 29-1 to come back. They're going to play some goofy-ass schedule down in Florida. Do you care at all, or are you just excited to see basketball?
I'm gonna get into it. I love the NBA.
Watch it.
I think it's interesting that the NBA is even though the MLB has the strongest union, the Basketball Association, NBA, and the Players Association has the best relationship. Out of all four of the major leagues, the hockey players hate the fucking management. Baseball union owns the fucking owners, and NFL players have been getting fucked from day one. But NBA and NBA Players Association kind of work together a lot, and I think that is very, like, maybe I'm blowing this out into too big of a microcosm, but because it is a group that is, even though they're millionaires, they are obviously I want to say inferior, but the disadvantaged group. They're going up against billionaires who own the rights to everything. So they are the disadvantaged group. But instead of the NBA throwing their fucking, kneeling on their neck and trying to break them and trying to, they've had a partnership for probably
it's a lot more of a
cohesive.
It's a lot more of a cohesive deal in the NBA since the lockout. Since the stuff when the new deal came out, when the new TV deal shit hit, once they figured that shit out, it's been smooth sailing. And honestly, it's been Adam Silver who's been the main component of that. He's been he's been like a players commissioner.
Because David Stern did kind of have a break 'em attitude for a while.
He thought he was going to break
you're right. Adam Silver has been, you're right. And everybody's making bread. Everybody's
happy, man. The league is dope.
Yeah.
The right players are getting pushed. Nobody's getting in trouble like they used to. Remember how much trouble they used to get into in the league?
Dude, they were almost like trouble now. It was almost
the Jailblazers.
Constant bladder, constant shit. The 90s motherfuckers a bunch of family men who still be fucking strippers, but they family men now.
It's almost like, but they're gonna settle down.
They got a reality show of them and niggas at the strip club and they wife and a cutscene to the wife with the baby. Like, I know he go to the strip clubs, but he coming home. Like, they didn't normalize the shit, man. It's still the same hustle. They still mopping bottles and shit.
The reality is the league has allowed the players to embrace, and as the league itself has embraced black culture in general, and accepted what remember when Iverson came in the league and they were so mad about his tattoos, and now it's like all that shit is embraced. And instead of trying to fight it, they've seen like that is what people are looking for. They want the culture. And so they're
something else about the NBA. They're the only league that promotes their individual players. Like, they promote their players promoting themselves. Like, Major League Baseball doesn't know how to promote their players. They never have. Hockey it's hockey. They're the fourth tier, and they're not out there. And NFL actively tries not to promote their individual players.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so
I think it also helps that the NBA is largely an African American league, and so there's a lot of
all of them are. Well, no, they're not.
I just mean, I mean, like, you know, when it comes to dealing with social issues and also individualism, the NBA lends to an opportunity for more social activism than almost any of the other leagues. By virtue of there being more African American players in the league from a percentage standpoint, then when something happens, the speaking out that happens is you're going to see a larger percentage of that from the league that has the larger percentage of African American players who are also like pushed to be individuals, right? So like
they also have more African Americans in the front office. Like they aren't great at they're not some shining example, but they are definitely probably the best of the big four as far as people of color, of any color, not just African Americans. But baseball, I believe, does have a decent Latino.
As far as people of color, baseball is pretty decent. Yeah.
Management and shit like that. But yeah, basketball, they have people in the front office. They have people, I listen to Bomani Jones' podcast. He brought up a great thing about Jim Dolan, like Jim Dolan of the Knicks, total asshole, right? Jerk, probably a little bit, seems like he might be a little bit racist. He's given more black people head coaching and GM and positions of power jobs than almost anybody in the NBA. He's like, you go back, look. If you look at the white people that he hired, if you're a white dude to work for Jim Dolan, you got to be a legend. He hired Larry Brown and Phil Jackson. Everybody else was black. So, I don't know if that's how much that says about Jim Dolan. It seems like it says a lot about Jim Dolan, but it also just says about the nature of the league,
right?
And somebody who like Jim Dolan even, sees the benefit of working with African American. I'll just say African American. Damn it, working with black people.
Hey man, where can people find you on social media?
At XL Comedy, also at the New OG page on Facebook, and Xavier Lamont on Facebook and IG.
Make sure you get to New OGs and to our personal sites. We're going to be posting some of these links at places. Remember, linktr.ee/national resources list, eatblackowned.com. Red said it. Find Sarah Mowrey, Mowrey, on social media and donate some money to get to see her tits. You can find New OGs at New OGs Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Mocha_Jesus on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope this helped you figure out what the fuck to do and didn't crush your spirit too much. We'll be back next week, hopefully, with better news. That's it from us. We're out of here. That's what's up.
Deuces.
We hit the road. They said we couldn't do it, now we do it just to say we did it. Fuck a critic on my pivot. I've been ballin'. Enchilada, did some pain when I started. Fuck your bitch, now she get attachment, she get callin'. High school, you was that nigga, now you fallin'. I'ma zigzag through the gang like I'm smoking on trees.